We're 10 o'clock. I want to keep the time rolling. I'm Kevin Burke with Klein, Dean & Telly Goldner. And my purpose is to introduce you to your host. And the reason you are all here today to listen to Cameron Herold speak, Mr. Tim McNeely. I can tell you that Tim has climbed Mount Everest about 3 or 4 times without oxygen, mind you. I can tell you that Tim has sailed around the world at the equator twice, and he possibly might have an Olympic gold medal. I can tell you that, but none of this is true. I can tell you that. But what Tim has done for the last 23 years is help business owners like you build amazing lives of significance by being even better leaders. In these changing times, businesses have been completely disrupted. The new normal, we don't even know what that really normal means right now. Yet the fundamental principles of leadership have not changed. Tim has been involved in helping business owners make smart choices on their financial assets for over 23 years. He has gone through a number of recessions, the Great Recession, and many different business changes and challenges, everything from 9/11 to right now, this COVID-19. And one of the things I've seen about Tim is his commitment to leadership. And because he's so committed to the concept of leadership, he's found an expert, Cameron Herold. We're glad to have him here today. And we're excited on the ideas of some great leadership coming from Cameron today. So what I want to do is introduce you to our host, Mr. Tim McNeely. Tim, take it away, buddy.
Congratulations. You've made a great decision to be on this call today. First, though, real quick housekeeping item. We're going to keep you on mute, not because we don't want you to talk, but there's a lot of background noise. So we're going to do some Q&A at the end for about 15 minutes. And if you got some questions for Cameron, please take yourself off mute, ask those questions. We want that interaction. But like I said, during the presentation, we're just going to keep you muted just because of all that background noise. And you're going to get a great deal out of the meeting today. You're going to know at least 3 different things that you can do as a leader in these difficult times to readjust, to reboot, to realign and emerge even stronger. You're going to hear some great stories from Cameron. And you're going to have the opportunity to be around one of the greatest thought leaders in America today and the author of numerous best-selling books. And in fact, we've got a couple of his books here. And if you participate today, if you type some things in the Q&A, if you're interacting with us, you're going to have an opportunity for me to send some of you those books, and you'll have a chance to win some of those. You know, Cameron's offered to come here today because he's the person I call on when my clients are looking to increase their valuation. He's a vetted member of my team, and he's a friend to share some of these ideas with you. And, you know, I've heard Cameron speak numerous times, and the one thing you're really going to want to pay attention today to is when Cameron talks about a vivid vision and how that can help you not just scale your company over the next 3 years, but emerge from COVID even stronger. Now, I could tell you that by age 35, Cameron helped build his first of 2 $100 million companies. I could also tell you that by age 42, Cameron had engineered 1-800-GOT-JUMP's spectacular growth from $2 million a year to $106 million in just 6 years. Or I could tell you that Cameron has done over 585 paid speaking events in 12 years. He's spoken in 26 countries and on 6 continents. I could tell you that, and unlike what Kevin said about me, all those things are true. So over the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, Cameron's going to talk to us about leadership. We'll spend a few minutes on Q&A, and then I'll come back and have some closing comments from that. And so let's give Cameron Herold a big Bakersfield welcome.
Hey everybody, Tim, thanks very much. Just a quick shout out, by the way, to Tim McNeely. Tim actually won a photo submission contest that I had on Facebook about a month ago, where I said that I was going to donate one of my coaching calls to anyone who posted some great photos of themselves with my books. My normal coaching rate is $2,600 an hour, so there's a fair amount of value there, but that's my annual fee for clients. I charge $48,000 a year for clients to coach them, and they get one 90-minute call a month. Tim actually won that coaching call, but asked me if instead of coaching, if I would do a webinar for his group in exchange. So he gave up that coaching call in exchange for me doing this webinar for you guys. So I'm going to try to deliver some great value, but Tim came up with some ridiculously hilarious photos and won the contest. So maybe we'll get those photos. Tim, if you could even maybe pull those together and we can show people at the end what they look like, because those were true photos and those made this happen. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to hop into, I'm going to use some photos just to illustrate some of what I'm talking about here. And then at the end, I'll come off of the photos and we'll talk live. None of this, the slides that I show are going to have any text. It is going to be a little bit like drinking from a fire hose today. I'm going to try to come at you with a lot of really good content and ideas that you can put in place in your business. I would urge you to grab a pen and a notepad, turn off your computer and actually take some notes because you are going to get some good value here. As Tim mentioned, yes, I have grown a number of different businesses. The one that I'm most known for was 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Took them from 2 million in revenue to 106 million in revenue in 6 years, from 14 employees up to 3,100 employees in 6 years. But that was the fourth company that I'd grown. I see every business like a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. And what I mean by that is that when you're building a business, you have to think about the picture on the front of the box that you're building and what that business of yours looks like in the future. So I try to get all my entrepreneurs to lean out into the future. And I use a concept that I was taught 25 years ago called the vivid vision. And I outline the concept of the vivid vision in 3 of my books. In my first book, Double Double, another book that I wrote called Vivid Vision itself, and then the third in the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs that I co-authored with Hal Elrod. The idea with the vivid vision is the entrepreneur looking into a crystal ball and looking out into the future to see what their company looks like, acts like, and feels like 3 years in the future. And most of us as entrepreneurs can see our business. We have some vision as to what our company looks like, but the problem is that our employees can't see what we can see. You know, our employees can't climb into our mind and see what we can see. So like an athlete will visualize themselves performing the event. We may have even seen athletes like a high jumper with their eyes closed, kind of running up to the bar, hopping up over the bar in their mind doing that. While they're doing that, they're using this process of visualization. In the business world, we're going to give you a tool to take the visualization that you have and to share it with your employees so they can see almost what's inside the mind of an athlete. If you think about building a house or doing a renovation for a second, if any of you have ever done a renovation or built a home, really at the end of the day, you were the CEO of that project. You know, you were the contractor's vision, right? You would have the vision of what the finished product would look like, and you would describe it to the contractor in a way that they could draw blueprints to make your dream come true, right? They could take the ideas out of your mind, the pictures, the sketches, the drawings, the description of what your home or your kitchen renovation was going to look like, and they could create blueprints and plans to match your vision. You would sign off on the plans, they would sign off on your vision, they would then hand the blueprints to the employees, and the workers would build your home without ever needing to talk to you. Pretty incredible process. When everyone can see what the homeowner can see, they can actually make that come true. And the reason that most businesses struggle and are always trying to hold people accountable and work hard and they're frustrated with their employees is you're the only one that can see the vision. But if everyone could see what your company was going to look like, act like, and feel like 3 years in the future, they'd be able to start working towards that similar vision. The problem is in the past, all we were ever given was a mission statement. You know, that 1-sentence mission statement, and that was supposed to align our teams. You know, you probably got your leadership team together and picked a bunch of words and put a bunch of words up on a whiteboard and voted on your favorite words and took 6 words and mashed them up into 1 sentence, go team, and that was your vision statement. Well, the reality is that doesn't explain what your culture of your company looks like. It doesn't explain what marketing is like. It doesn't explain your leadership team. It doesn't talk about operations or sales or your customer engagement. It doesn't talk about your meetings or how your employees are feeling. It doesn't talk about what the media is writing about you. The vivid vision becomes a 4 or 5 page written document describing what your company looks like, acts like, and feels like 3 years in the future. And again, I've given you a lot of content in 3 of my books, Double Double, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, and Vivid Vision itself. But we're going to give you a crash course and a kind of a primer on it today. If any of you have seen a movie, like an example of a movie would be The Sound of Music. You know, there's a very famous scene in the movie where they're having a picnic. And if I told you to recreate the picnic scene, you might be thinking to have the picnic at a park, maybe the picnic's at a lake, and maybe you have all the kids at a picnic playing baseball or playing croquet like we've seen in the movies. But the problem is the Sound of Music picnic is up in the Alps. It's up in the Swiss Alps, the Austrian Alps. and the kids are singing and dancing, listening to Julie Andrews playing her guitar. But you had a different vision of what a picnic would look like. That's what's happening in your company today. Your employees have a different vision of what the culture is going to be. They have a different vision of what the customer interaction should be like. They have a different vision of how sales should be operating. They have a different vision of what the office environment's supposed to look and feel like. So unless you share what you can see in your mind in a way that they can read your mind, they're going to have a different vision that they'll be working towards. So crafting a vivid vision, the first step is getting out of your box. It's getting out of your office, getting away from your environment that you work in day to day, no laptop, no notepad, just taking a pad of paper and a pen and going somewhere where you're inspired, somewhere around nature, somewhere where you can disconnect from your office space, where you can disconnect from the busyness of the day, where you can disconnect from email and people, and you can just let your mind dream. One of the reasons why I sit where I sit here in Vancouver with a view over the mountains and the ocean is it allows me to stay inspired and stay creative. And then when I get into the business of planning, I can sit down at my desk in the office and actually crank through the actual strategic part of the work. But when you're crafting the vivid vision, the idea is to let your mind dream and lean out into the future, almost like you're hopping into a time machine. I want you to pretend that you're going to hop into a time machine and you're going to travel out to December 31st, 2022. Or maybe now that we're partway through 2020, halfway through, maybe we'll lean out 3 years to December 31st, 2023. And we're going to start describing what your company looks like, acts like, and feels like December 31st, 2023, as if you're walking around your office, as if you're walking and sitting in the corner of your meetings. And I want you to describe, by doing a mind map, sit down doing a mind map, describe your office environment. You know, write down 3 or 4 bullet points describing your office. Describe your culture. Describe your leadership team meetings. Describe the leadership team itself and how they communicate. Describe operations and IT and finance and sales and marketing. And you're going to write down 3 or 4 bullet points about each area of your org chart. You're going to write down 3 or 4 bullet points about what the customers are saying about your company, what the media is writing about you, like I covered in my book, Free PR. You're going to really describe as many aspects of your company and what it looks like, acts like, and feels like in the future. And then you're going to take all of your rough notes and you're going to organize the bullet points into paragraphs. So your idea is to take all the rough notes and organize them into bullet points and then do the first draft. Not a draft that anyone is going to read, but just write all your notes down as best you can so that it flows in some kind of a paragraph style. What I suggest you do at that point is take your vivid vision and send it off to a copywriter. I have a couple of really, really good copywriters that have done hundreds of copies of vivid visions for companies. So if you want an introduction to one, just send me an email, ask for vivid vision writers, and I can introduce you to some. They will take your rough draft. They might do some calls with you to pull more ideas out of your mind, and they'll take your rough draft and polish it in a way that it really pops off the page and it really resonates with people and it excites people. You'll also want to add some graphic design elements to it. This is a vivid vision for a company that I coached in Canada that makes clothing for guys that love to watch hockey. This is another vivid vision that was written by a marketing agency. So you'll take your graphic design elements and add it to it to make your vivid vision become like a magnet and pull people towards your brand. Now, if a magnet attracts people into your company, the other thing it does is it pushes people away. It repels people as well. Your vivid vision needs to be written in such a way that some people who read it go, there's no way I would ever want to work for that company. Perfect. Go work for government. But you need people to really be attracted to you and also pushed away. So if you're going to have an open office environment, wave that flag, man. If you're going to have a very inclusive culture, wave that flag. If you're going to have a very results-oriented, driven, hard-nosed culture, but fun as well, wave that flag. Because you really want people to say, hell yeah, or no way. So don't try to write this kumbaya group hug vivid vision that includes everybody. It has to be yours. It has to be the CEO's. It does not have to be your team's. You don't get a whole bunch of people to write this. The CEO's job is to craft the vision and then get a whole bunch of people lined up to help them make it come true, right? You'd never turn to a contractor and say, build me a great home. You'd say, build me this home. Otherwise, the contractor might build you a modern home and you wanted a craftsman style, or they might build you a 4-story and you wanted a rancher style. right? You've got to be very specific of the vision of what you're building, and the team can figure out the plans and how to make that come true. What happens is a pure amount of alignment happens where all of your customers, your employees, your suppliers, your potential employees, everyone are pulling in that same direction, and everyone gets completely aligned with your vivid vision. And then you no longer have to spend time herding cats or keeping people organized or keeping people aligned or being frustrated, because they're all pointing towards that vivid vision, trying to make each sentence come true over the next 3 years. And they all know that some parts of it are going to happen in the first year, some parts of it will come through in the second year, and some parts of it will come through in the third year, because they know it's like building a home, but they're at least aligned and driving in that same direction. So that's the first thing that we talk about, is that vivid vision as being a part of the jigsaw puzzle. The second corner of the jigsaw puzzle that I look at is your core purpose. Now, we know that the whole term core purpose was popularized by Simon Sinek in his book, Start With Why, in his famous TED Talk. That's the number 3 TED Talk of all time. Simon was on our board at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I met Simon 5 years before he did his TED Talk. 5 years before anyone on the planet had met Simon. Simon flew to Vancouver to meet me and Brian to find out if we were real, because he read about us in Fortune magazine and the growth we were having at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. At the time that Simon explained his idea of the golden circles, it was originally a cone shape that he described to me that day in our boardroom. We hired Simon to work with us in marketing, to be on our board for a year. And then again, 5 years later, his concept came live. But our understanding of core purpose is something that really aligned our company. It's something that you really need to understand in your business today. My core purpose is helping entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. So everything I do is aligned with helping entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. If I think about the speaking events that I do, as Tim said, I've done now over 600 paid speaking events in 26 countries on 6 continents. I was the #1 speaker 2 years in a row for Vistage at their all-city events. I'm one of the top speakers for YPO in 10 countries. But that's aligned with helping entrepreneurs. My coaching model, where I coach entrepreneurs, CEOs, and their COOs, is completely aligned with helping entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. My 5 books that I've written, Vivid Vision, Meetings Suck, Free PR, Double Double, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, are all completely aligned with giving the systems and tools to entrepreneurs and their teams so that they can actually grow their companies. My COO Alliance that I started, the only network of its kind in the world for the second in command. You know, there's all these groups for entrepreneurs, but there was nowhere for their integrators or their COOs to learn. So we created a group that's only for COOs. No entrepreneurs are allowed. But if I grow the COO skills, that'll help the entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. And then my podcast, the Second in Command podcast, again, giving the tools and interviewing COOs. So you see that everything I do is aligned with my core purpose and aligned with my vivid vision of where I'm going. And my team is inspired and excited to work on the stuff because they understand why they're doing it and how it all fits into that bigger picture. It also allows me to say no. It allows me to say no to the wrong groups. You know, if a government agency came and wanted me to speak, I'd say no. I don't like government. I don't work well with government. If a huge corporate company came to me, I'd say no, I don't work well with big corporate. I'm very good in kind of the 50 to 1,000 person companies. You know, that would be my niche that I'm really, really strong in. The second area of the jigsaw puzzle is your core values, and a real deep understanding and living of your core values. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs have core values, but I'll bet you couldn't say them. I'll bet you can't recite them. I'll bet you if you have core values for your company, your leadership team can't recite them. I'll bet you if you go out and you ask all your employees, they can't recite them. And I'll bet you that you don't interview people based on them. And I'll bet you've got people in your company today that don't live them, that you haven't fired. Living your core values means that you're willing to fire people who break them, and they're not just up on the wall. Core values should never be single words because they leave too much to interpretation. They're confusing. Your core values should be a maximum of 4 or 5 core values. They should be short phrases that are easy to understand, that need no explanation, no definition, no bullet points to explain it. It should be so clear. And you should be willing to fire people who break them. You know, again, Enron had core values, right? Enron's core values were on their wall. They were chiseled in the lobby. They were on their marketing material, but they didn't live the core values. So some of the best core values I've ever seen was where I really learned how to grow companies was with college pro painters. Deliver what you promise, respect the individual, pride in all you do, And about 10 years ago, they added a fourth core value, find a better way. But those were their same core values since 1971, and they became the largest independent house painting company in the world. That was the company that I hired Kimball Musk, Elon's brother, to work for me in 1993, and his cousin who built Solar City worked for me in 1993 as well as franchisees. Those were the core values that allowed us to attract people into the organization. Here's an example of really great core values, except the fourth one, and they actually just got rid of it. They narrowed it down to 5. Deliver what you promise, get shit done, treat every member like your best friend, live and breathe sport and social club, and take pride in all you do. The reason they got rid of Be a Tigger is some people didn't understand Tigger and Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, and they realized that they needed to have core values that were clear to everybody and that they were willing to fire people who broke them. So they narrowed it down to 5 and they lived them. This is the biggest sport and social club in North America. They have 130,000 people playing co-ed intramural sports in their leagues. The next area that you go into on your vivid vision or on the corner is your BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal, and then your 1-year plan. I'm not going to go into those because we don't have time. I normally do 90-minute paid speaking events. We don't have time to cover everything, but you can get all that content in double or, from listening to the podcast, etc. But the first side of the jigsaw puzzle are the people systems. For me, that's all of the information regarding recruiting, interviewing, selecting, onboarding, training, leadership development, and firing of the wrong people. It's the full spectrum of your employees is where I spend a lot of time coaching and building companies. Today, what I want to talk about is related to great people. It's not just about having employees in your organization, but it's having great employees in your organization. 1 A player replaces 3 C players. Most people here would say they've got a great team. If I sat you down over a beer, I can guarantee you after 1 beer, I could show you that at best, you've probably got a team of B players, probably Bs and Cs. A players are racehorses, B players are workhorses, C players should go to the glue factory. You should only have teams of A's and B's. B's, the good solid workhorses, are good people, but you need to have that team of A's. And A players are different, man. They knock the cover off the ball. They don't need work. They're self-driven learners. They're culture gods. They drive the organization faster than you're willing to drive it. If you don't have that feeling when you're talking about someone, then at best they're a B. So when they wrote the book, The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, Ken Kesey, who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, led a group around the United States in the early 60s tripping on acid. And their mantra was, you're either on the bus or off the bus. Now, in the book, Good to Great, Jim Collins talked about getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and everybody in the right seat. It was based on this bus with Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters tripping on acid because their mantra was you're either on the bus or off the bus. What they meant by that was you're either part of the scene or you're not. You either get it or you don't. You're either a part of our vivid vision or you're not. Only recruit and bring people into your company who are so into the vivid vision of where you're going, and get rid of the wrong culture people, get rid of the negative toxic people. What they understood was if they had a whole bunch of people doing acid together, if they had the wrong people on the bus, it would ruin the trip, literally. Well, if you have the negative, grumpy, toxic underperformers in your environment, it starts to spin off negative, grumpy, negative culture into your environment. You have to get rid of those people. And I've not found a single company yet that works hard enough to fire the wrong people. One of my coaching clients I've coached now for 6 years, I've coached them from 40 employees up to 700. 2.5 years ago, they raised $255 million by Warburg Pincus, really, really great company called Blue Grace Logistics. They're now working hard at firing the wrong people, but it's the first time I've worked with an organization that sits down every month, every 2 months to look for the underperformers and the toxic negative employees. We all talk about hiring and recruiting and interviewing and bringing good people in, but you also have to deal with that yin and yang and finding the toxic negative people as well, right? It's like our bodies. You got to put good nutrients into our bodies. You got to get the toxins out of your bodies. One of the lessons I learned about recruiting was hunting ducks with my grandfather. Both of my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My dad's an entrepreneur. Both my brother and sister and I have owned our own companies for 15 years each. So all we ever talked about was people and growing companies. What I understood from duck hunting was you put decoys out to attract ducks into your blind. You put these wooden or plastic ducks out into the water, and they would attract other ducks into your blind so you could shoot them. Well, you think about your company for a second. What are your decoys? What are you using to attract people into your company? And I would encourage you, go take a look at both of my websites. Go to CameronHerold.com, it's Herold, or go to the COOalliance.com. And you'll realize that both of those are meant to attract like a magnet in and to push people away. But look at your company website and ask yourself, am I attracting people or am I pushing them away? Go look at your leadership team bios. If they read by going, you know, Kevin has his degree from such and such a university and he's made, boring. Your leadership team bio should read like a Tinder profile. It should attract people. You should actually want to read every one of your leadership team people's bios. If you haven't read them, no one else is reading them either. If they don't resonate and read like a recruiting ad to date them, no one's reading them. You should never, ever have photos of anybody on your website with a shirt and tie. You think about this for a second, that IBM, Big Blue, banned the wearing of a tie in 1989. 31 years ago, IBM banned ties. Why the hell would any of you on your company website have someone wearing a tie? To be professional? I think what's happening right now is we're trying to actually look important, but we look impotent. So have people dressed professionally, have their bio written in a fun way, but you're looking to attract people into your brand, not push them away from your brand. The other thing I learned about recruiting was that you need a rifle to hunt great employees. You need a shotgun to hunt ducks. You spray all the pellets to get the ducks, but if you're looking for great employees, they're never out looking for a job. Your A players are not on Indeed. They're not on Craigslist. They're not on industry job boards. Great employees are working somewhere. They're kicking ass. You have to know who they are. You have to know where they are. You got to go poach them. And often that means going to get an executive recruiting firm to go get them, or being very targeted in your marketing to go and get them. But great employees are not looking for jobs. I actually have 4 amazing executive recruiting firms that I have my clients use. One only looks for salespeople. One only does $400,000 plus roles. One only does mid-level and senior roles. And one is only based on culture, right? We actually know exactly what we're looking for, where to target them, and how to find them. But again, if you're putting up a job, posting on Indeed, at best you're getting B players. Every job posting that you ever write, give it to a copywriter, give the copywriter $250 and say, make that job posting pop off the page. Treat the job posting like a sales letter or a marketing piece. You don't let an HR person write a job posting. The HR person gets it to 80%, but have a copywriter make it pop. You don't let the head of engineering write a job posting. They're good at writing code. They're not good at writing job postings. Get them to write it to 80%, have a marketing person make it pop. Make sure you put your compensation in the job posting. Again, you want to turn away all the shitty people and turn away all the people that want 3 times that much money or less, and you want to attract people in. If you're nervous about that stuff, you've got an issue internally with your team. Anyway, I could go into this whole stuff for days. I also use a group interview to recruit candidates. I bring 6 to 8 candidates in at the same time, and I have one person from my team interviewing 6 to 8 people over Zoom or in person for the same job. And I'm only looking for 2 things at the beginning. I'm looking for culture fit. Who do I love to hang out with? And I'm looking for leadership. Who are the strongest leadership people? And I'm looking for that cream to rise to the top. So out of 6 or 8, those 2 I'll bring back in, and I'll do very detailed 2nd and 3rd interviews, and then using torque and reference checks to really know everything about them. But use the group interview to look for culture fit. As Steve Jobs used to say when he was building the Mac 40 years ago, he said if he didn't see the twinkle in their eyes, he didn't care if they had the skills. He would show them the prototype or the vivid vision, and if they weren't excited, he didn't care if they had the skill set to do it. He only wanted people that were really the right ones to have on the bus and had the skills to do the job. So think about having a job description. Let's say that we were hiring a swimmer. We might be out there looking for a fast, strong swimmer who's experienced with all strokes, competitive, a good team player. But if you actually want to hire A players, put down what you need them to have done in the past. I want a swimmer who won Olympic gold across 3 or 4 strokes. I want a swimmer who broke world records, and I want a swimmer who won in individual and team events. And here's the key difference. I don't want someone who knows how to do it. I want someone who has done it. It's bullshit when people come into your job interviews and, oh, I know how to do time management. Great, so you read a book. I know how to lead people. Great. So you read a book. Have you led people? Have you been leading people since you were 12 years old? Right? Leadership goes all the way back to when they were kids. They were the class clown. They were the head cub or the head scout, or they were the leader in their church youth group. They were on student council. They were elected to be the captain of their team. They were coaching kids in ski racing. Like by the time I was 18, I probably had 7 or 8 different pure leadership roles that were very identifiable. Don't hire someone who knows how to do it, because if you do, you end up with fast, strong swimmers who are competitive team players. Great. But if you hire based on having done stuff before, you end up with the A players. A players replace 3 C's. Raise the bar. Every time you bring somebody into your organization, raise the bar, raise the skill set, bring up the level. If you've got 3 people in marketing, the next one has to be better than at least 2. So what would Jack do? You think about Jack Welch in his day, he was one of the top CEOs on the planet. Every 6 months, he would make this diagram and draw it on a piece of paper. And then he would write down the names of all of his direct reports and everyone who reported to his direct reports into one of these 4 boxes. When I was coaching the CEO of Sprint, Marcelo Claret, Marcelo is now the CEO of WeWork, doing a turnaround of WeWork. Marcelo had built his first company and sold it for over $1 billion. He was appointed the CEO of Sprint. I was in there coaching Marcelo. I then coached his second in command for 18 months. Marcelo and I sat in his boardroom and filled out this diagram together. We wrote down the names of all 27 people that were on the C-level at Sprint, and then everyone who reported to those people into this diagram. We had about 120 people on this diagram. And then we sat down and we put people into the right boxes. And if somebody ended up in the bottom left-hand box with low results and low values, we fired them. That was simple. If somebody ended up in the top right-hand corner, like in the top right-hand box, but the very top right-hand corner of the box, we handcuffed them to the company for at least 5 years. We found a way to keep them in the company for 5 years. We found things that would satisfy them. For some, it was more of a results-only work environment. For some, it was work from home. For some, it was flex time. For some, it was more vacation time. For some, it was more responsibility. For some, we spun off the divisions and let them run it. For some, they wanted to work on their executive MBA. For some, they wanted visibility with the board. For some, they wanted visibility with Marcelo. Whatever those people needed, we put in place to satisfy them so that we could lock them in. And then if we had people in the bottom right-hand corner, the high values, but they weren't getting results, most people would say to coach them or train them. That's the wrong answer. The first thing you want to do is make sure they're in the right seat. If the person's in the right seat, then you coach them and train them. But if they're not in the right seat, you got to move them into the right spot in the organization. The whole school system was so screwed up when we were kids, right? If I sucked at French, my parents got me a French tutor. Guess what? I still suck at French, and now I don't like French people. What they should have done is said, wow, you're amazing at public speaking. I was winning speaking competitions in grade school. I was winning public speaking competitions, but they didn't get me a speaking coach. They got me a French tutor. If they'd got me a speaking coach, I could have been doing Tony Robbins shit. So make sure that you coach people who are in the right seat. And then the key one is the top left-hand corner. If you have people that are getting super high results, but their low core values fit, these are like the superstar performers that nobody likes, or the engineer that no one can get along with. You have to fire those people. These are the negative, toxic energy people. And when you start getting rid of the high performers or low performers, but anyone on that left side, that's when you really win. The cost of the wrong person is 15 times their annual salary. Think about that for a second. That's a data point from a group at Top Grading, which is used by all the top companies on the planet. If you have someone working in your company and they're the wrong person, it's costing you 15 times what you're paying them. So as an example, I've got somebody right now that's working with me in the organization doing social media. She's probably going to get replaced. She's been good for a few years, but she's hitting her ceiling of complexity. I need way more results. I pay her about $50,000 a year. The reality is, yeah, she's probably costing me $750,000. It's probably cost me speaking events I haven't gotten, or coaching clients I haven't landed, or growth in the CO Alliance, or book sales that haven't been generated. If she was the right person, she'd be knocking the cover off the ball. My energy would be more fun. I'd have more energy working with her. I'd be looking forward to showing up at calls. All that stuff spins off into the rest of the business. When you have the right people, it really is incremental. It's about multiplication by subtraction. Right? When you get rid of the wrong people, things go faster. So this is what the jigsaw puzzle ends up looking like. Right? This is the stuff that I normally cover when you book me to speak at a conference or an event or your companies. This is the stuff that I coach people on, but this is kind of the approach. The overall vision is the picture on the front of the jigsaw puzzle. And these are the pieces that make the jigsaw puzzle come true. By the way, strategic thinking is not strategic planning. There's no such thing as strategic planning. Strategy and planning are two different things. You have strategic thinking, and then you have business planning. Strategy is like, what would happen when the stock market crashes? What's going to happen if the stock market crashes? What's going to happen if the US dollar drops by 10%? What's going to happen if a democratic government gets put in place? What's going to happen if, you know, a big oil and gas company in our city gets shut down or declares bankruptcy? What happens if American Airlines slashes 25,000 jobs? What happens if? What happens if a competitor goes bankrupt? What happens if we acquired 3 people? That's strategy. Business planning is goal setting, planning, project planning. So make sure you have time in your calendar for strategy, and then make time in your calendar for planning. I'm totally dying right now laughing that somebody's smoking a cigar during this, and it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. Dude, you and I are gonna party together. You're awesome. So I wanna flip gears right now. I wanna talk for about 15 minutes on how to grow when it's slow. I mean, we're clearly coming out of a time right now, or in the middle of this COVID time. We're at a very, very kind of nervous time with the market and economy right now. I want to give you some tools that I covered in my book, Double Double, in chapter 11 that I wrote in 2009, 2010, after the global financial crisis. Some of these lessons are going to pay off really, really strong right now for people in coming through this. Right now, it's time to increase your spending, but to increase spending on marketing and branding and sales, not on overhead, right? Spend your money. Right now, marketing and advertising is cheaper than it's ever been before. You can go back and renegotiate with billboard companies, radio companies, TV companies, online, digital. It's amazing what people will throw at you when others are cutting back. They'll give you more for your money. And if you're marketing more, your competitors are getting obliterated. 1-800-GOT-JUNK is spending more than they've ever spent right now on radio. And you're going to be hearing more and more radio ads in every single market. They're hitting $450 million in revenue this year. Their competitors are all getting nervous and they're spending more. Watch what happens when they come out of the recession, if we go into one, or what's going to happen during this time. It's also time to fire some of your customers. Look for your bottom customers, your negative, grumpy customers, the ones that drain you of energy, the ones you suck up your customer service time with. All of those people aren't worth having. You're sucking up all your gross margin with them anyway. Get rid of your grumpy, negative customers and watch what happens when everybody gets to focus on the fun customers. Somebody's got money right now. There's companies out there that are doing well, focus on them. There's businesses out there that are doing well, market to them. Figure out where your customers are that have the money and go focus on those people. But stop sitting in your office reading social media and reading your newspaper and reading about how bad it is, and go target the people that are actually doing well, because they're actually in growth mode right now. It's also time to eliminate their competitors. As much as I don't like him as a human being, Ray Kroc from McDonald's used to say, when the competition's drowning, stick a hose in their mouth. I firmly believe that business is a full contact sport. If you've got competitors that aren't doing well right now, it is time to hire their employees. It's time to do geographic fencing around their customers and do more marketing. It's time to actually put them out of business or acquire them right now, because there's huge, huge opportunities for you to grow when they're scared. This is also an amazing time to buy companies that are owned by baby boomers. Anybody that is 56 to 75 years old right now is tired. They're nervous about having to go through another global financial crisis or a market meltdown. They don't have it in them to run their company for another 10 years. They will gladly take a good amount of money for their company. They'll also probably take 30% of that money over the next 3 years. You can go out. I have a client right now that's doing 5 acquisitions, 70% bank financed, 30% vendor financed. He's putting no money down. The vendor's taking 30% over 5 years. The bank is considering the 30% as equity in the deal. We got a small local bank who can go for lunch with the president, because the president understands the deal now, and he's doing 5 roll-ups or 5 acquisitions really, really quickly. And he'll fire the finance team, get rid of the marketing people. All 5 of them will be cash flow positive day one. He's telling the owner to hit the bricks day one. He doesn't want them to stay. There's no earnout. And he's priced it at a level that the owners are all saying yes. He's done 5 of the 6 acquisitions he wanted to do because we worried about terms and not price. Start stealing. But what I mean by stealing is stealing the ideas. If you're listening to speakers like me and you're going, wow, these are good ideas, put them in place. If you're reading a book, like, don't read any more business books unless you're going to do what they tell you to do, right? Look at what the best companies are doing and do that. Look at the best ads that people are using and copy them. I say that research and development should stand for rip off and duplicate, right? Your R&D should be rip off and duplicate. Take the best ideas from the best companies and just do what they're doing, because that momentum will create momentum. You also have products and services right now that you're sitting on that you haven't marketed well, or you haven't marketed differently, or you can bundle together. Think about how you can create a bundle and market some stuff, or think about assets that you have that you can sell off right now that are sleepy assets, underperforming assets. Get rid of those to create cash, because you have money sitting under your pillow. And then fill your company with positive energy. Look for and surround yourself with more and more people that have positive energy and are glass half full kind of people. If you've got people in this group or in your organization or in mastermind groups that you're part of that are negative, grumpy people, don't spend time with them. Go spend time with the positive, fun, energy people that are driving forward, because that positive energy will attract more. You'll spin off again more momentum. One of my coaching clients runs about a $50 million company based out in Pennsylvania. And he was saying that on average, everyone in his industry will be down by 30% this year. And I said, okay, but what's your physical fitness level amongst, all of your peers? He goes, I'm in the top 1%. He guy does Tough Mudders and Spartan races. He's totally in the top 1% for health. And I said, how about for income level? Where are you against, Americans? He goes, I'm totally in the top 1% for income. And I said, okay, and of all the businesses in your industry, where are you there? He goes, we're top 5%. I said, great, if you're top 1% on wealth, top 1% on health, top 5% in your industry, why are you planning to be average? Being down by 30 is the average, which means some are down by 70, some are down by 50, some are down by 30, some are down by 10, some are up by 30. He goes, holy shit, let's plan to be up by 30. So he's the one doing 5 acquisitions right now, whereas at the beginning of the coaching call, he was planning to be average. Now he's realizing to be average, he can be at the top of that bell curve. Where your focus goes, energy flows. If you're sitting planning to be average, you will be. Right now is time more than ever to focus on growing. So I'll give you the secret formula and then we'll start taking Q&A. Here's how the secret formula works. I want all of you to write down this formula because it's going to be a good prediction for how successful your business is going to be. F times E equals success. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and just do this quick math with me for a second. The first F is focus. How focused are you? How focused is your company? How focused are your employees? How focused is your marketing? How focused are you on your plan? Did you wake up today focused on stuff, or did you just get busy doing email? Give yourself a percentage rating on focus, somewhere between 1 and 100% focused. Let's say you're 50% focused. And I'm talking about like over the last quarter or over the last month or over the last week, how focused are you in the company? The second F is for faith. How much faith do you have in yourself, in your business, in your team, in your plan, in your strategy? Are you wavering? Are you nervous? Are you like, yes, this is it and we're driving towards it? Do they all feel the same thing? How focused are you and the team and the company? And give yourself that faith score of somewhere between 1 and 100% on faith. And then the E stands for effort. How much effort are you putting in? Like, are you really driving it, or are you kind of driving it? Are you working hard, or are you hardly working? Right? Are you really actually driving hard on the flywheel? And give yourself a percentage rating on effort of 1 to 100%. And then multiply those out. Go 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5 or 50%. That equals 12.5% chance of success. If you had 50% focus times 50% effort times 50% faith, that's a 12.5% chance of success. That's an 87.5% chance you're going to go bankrupt. Those suck. Even if you're 80% focus times 80% faith times 80% effort, that's only a 51.2% chance of success. That's 50-50. You might as well go to Vegas, put all your money on black or red, roll the dice and let it roll. You've literally got a 50-50 shot. If you can get yourself to 90% focus times 90% faith times 90% effort and your employees in your company, that still only gets you to 72.8% chance of success. To truly, truly, truly drive the cover off the ball. At 1-800-GOT-JUNK, we had 6 consecutive years of 100% revenue growth. 6 years in a row, our revenue grew by 100%. From 2 million to 106 million. We gave up no equity. We had no debt. We ranked as the #2 company in Canada to work for. We landed 5,200 stories about our company in the press, which is why I wrote the book Free PR. We literally knocked the cover off the ball. But we were 98% focused times 98% faith times 98% effort, which gave us a 94% chance of success. Those are the odds I bank on. The rest of it's bullshit. So as I mentioned, I wanted to give you as much content as I could in 45 minutes. We're at the 44-minute mark. If you want more information on this stuff, send a text with my name, Cameron Herold. Put a space in there, just Cameron Herold, and send it to 415-528-7403. It'll ask for your email address. I will send you some more information. We'll send you our blogs and our podcast, and there'll be some more offers in there as well. But that's a way to get more information on the group. If your company does at least 5 million in revenue or more, I urge you to take a look at the COO Alliance. If you grow your second in command, they will grow your company. But you need at least 5 million in revenue for them to be a part of it. So that's where we are. Let's kind of stop from that. We'll stop the screen share and I'll take some questions. I'm also going to go get some water because I had throat surgery 5 weeks ago and my throat is dying on me. So what questions do we got?
Yeah, if you got some questions, go ahead and take yourself off mute and jump on in.
I really don't have a question other than, I mean, a lot of what you discussed, I actually did and went through. I mean, there was a period in my career, I've had my company since 1998. And I mean, there was a period where I absolutely despised going into my own company. I had toxic employees. It was just miserable. I mean, everybody's attitude sucked. You know, I went through a smattering of different consultants, you know, some that worked on me personally, some that worked on, you know, us as a group. And it really did make a difference. When I started getting rid of those toxic people, and even my hiring process changed completely. I mean, you know, depending on what I'm looking for as a role in the company, you know, I'll do an initial interview and determine whether or not they're ready for that next stage. So that next stage may be meeting with my project managers. You know, I've interviewed employees where, you know, one of my employees will ask them something and they'll look at me and give the answer. And it's like, you just disrespected one of your possible team players because they want to know, are you going to be a good part of this team? And so once let's say I'm looking for a designer, you know, I'll look at somebody and I'll go, okay, well, I think they're a good enough designer. I think they do not only know how to work the application, but they have done actual design of whatever I'm looking for. But then they go to the project manager. So the project managers are going to feel out, are you going to be responsive to us? And then they may end up, you know, if they pass that, then they'll end up in front of my other team of designers. Because ultimately, you know, I've had employees, we got rid of one a while back, and my team came to me and like, oh my God, we're so glad we got rid. I'm like, why? I'm like, oh, you wouldn't believe, I mean, the way they responded to you, you didn't get to see how they responded to us and the rest of the team. You know, they didn't value everybody else's input. I remember years ago, I had some designers, and it would drive them absolutely batshit crazy when I said, hey, I want my office manager, I want my wife, I want this person to look at this design. And they're going, well, they're not a trained designer, they don't know. I'm like, well, no, they're the end user. And so if what you created didn't motivate that end user, then you didn't do your job, go back to the drawing board. So, I mean, it was important to get through that. And so, I mean, I got to tell you, in all my years of having company, I've had some great team members through the years, but right now my staff is dialed in. I mean, I've got my A players, and we quickly identify if somebody does happen to slip by and make it into and get hired, they get weeded out real quick. I mean, you know, if my team will come to me and it's like, you know what, I'm spending extra time training this person, doing this for them, and it actually is holding us back. So yeah, so I mean, a lot of what you said, man, I can totally relate to because I went through that crap, man. And so I do love going to work, you know, even though we're doing it by Zoom meetings now. But you know, I'm definitely proud of my team, and weeding those out made a hell of a lot of difference. We're a lot more productive, and we really enjoy what we do. And we're proud of what we do. So yeah.
You can feel the energy in that, in what you just said as well, which is how you know it's true, right? When so many people be like, oh, I've got a good team. Really? Didn't fucking sound like it. When you've got that much energy and passion behind change and turning stuff, you know that you're either like there or on the right track. And then it just gets fun. Like it really, and it gets fun for them. Like I actually had dinner last night with a guy who I worked with 16 years ago at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Haven't seen him in about a couple of years, but we were laughing about it and kind of going like, it was so fun back then. Like that's because you're surrounded by the right people. If you don't have that feeling, if anybody listening right now doesn't have that feeling, That's why, right? It's no different than going to a cocktail party and being around a kind of like a bunch of negative, grumpy people where it just doesn't vibe and you leave and you go, that was kind of lame. It's lame because of who was there.
Hey, Cameron, I know Brad has a question. Brad, you want to jump on and ask it real quick?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Cameron, for your time. Really valuable. Yeah. My question is what's the best way to roll out the Vivid Vision? I mean, I've done kickoff meetings every year for our company. It's the rally point behind the core values, and we do that. But if I do sense that there's a new vision, a clearer vision that I need to roll out to our company of what the next 3 years look like. And what is, in your experience, has been the most effective way to try to maybe redefine or more clearly define or extenuate the vision in a more a broader way, more focused way? What's the best way to roll out that type of change?
Sure. I'll give you an example. So here's an example of the COO Alliance Vivid Vision. All right, I'll drop it into the chat, but the Vivid Vision now is a 4 or 5 page document describing what it looks like, the locations, our content, you know, how we connect and recharge, the benefits of the community, the culture, our marketing, the team. It describes it all. So what I do with this document is first off, I share it with my leadership team. So my team gets to see a copy of the Vivid Vision. And then I share it with all of my employees. And I'm sharing a physical copy of it with all of my employees. And then I go public with it. And I share it with my customers, my suppliers, my banker, my lawyer, my accountants. Everybody gets to see what it looks like, what it feels like, how we act, right? And then every 6 months, I send it to my suppliers, my accountant, my lawyer, my marketing teams, et cetera. So they all see what we're building. And every quarter, my employees reread it and they look for the 1 or 2 sentences that we can start making come true. At the leadership team level, every quarter, we look at it as a Word document and we highlight which sentences are green and which ones are yellow that we're now working on. So they can start seeing it almost unfold like a flower opening up.
Awesome. Thank you.
If you click on the links that I just shared, by the way, I shared links for the COO Alliance, for the Second in Command podcast, where we've interviewed the second in command of companies like the Cleveland Indians, Bumble, you know, like some amazing companies, Shopify. We only interview the COO. And then I also just shared the Vivid Vision for the COO Alliance to give you an example of what they look like as well.
So, and then Cameron, Daryl will ask, he says, you know, during slow times, right, we should ramp up our marketing. And so for business owners that have an intangible product, what are some action steps that you can do to ramp up the marketing to come out better?
What's an intangible product mean?
That I don't know. Daryl didn't have a mic. So I'm guessing maybe it's professional services. Oh, insurance.
Okay. So, well, who's your target market? I mean, you've got to be able to explain what that insurance is and who you're targeting normally. So how do you explain it to them? If you've got we've heard in the old days of your 30-second elevator pitch, I think give your 5-second elevator pitch and then maybe a 10 and then maybe a 30. Your 5 is why you do what you do, right? Your 10 is how you do what you do. And then your 30 is what you do. So as an example, if somebody said to me, what do you do? I say, I help entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. They go, huh? So my marketing starts with helping entrepreneurs make their dreams happen, talking about helping entrepreneurs make their dreams happen, which gets people listening. So the intangible on insurance is like, they're at risk, take care of their families. Like, what is it that why do you sell insurance? Why do people need insurance? Start with your why and then go to the how and then go to your what. So people will say, well, how do you help entrepreneurs make their dreams happen? Well, with my COO Alliance, my Second in Command podcast, my books, I almost kind of don't mention coaching because they'll go, ooh, what's coaching? And they'll like, how do you do that? Well, I teach them these systems. I walk them through these tools. They go, oh, tell me more. So your intangibles start with your why. And
then Brian asks, he says, right, as a company, how often should you update your vision or core values?
Core values should be done locked and loaded until you know that they've absolutely changed. So core values are core. Core values are the shit you live by. So those shouldn't really change unless all of a sudden, you've had some big epiphany and you change, right? But core values are core. The biggest issue I ever had I grew up Roman Catholic. The biggest issue I ever had with the Catholic Church was, you can go to confession. I remember I was 4 years old and my dad went into this little room. I thought he was going to the bathroom. And he came out and I'm like, how'd it go? He goes, good. I was talking to a priest. I'm like, that's weird. You were in that little room. I thought you were going to the bathroom. He goes, no, I was talking to the priest. I'm like, okay, what did you talk about? He said, well, I told the priest everything I've been doing wrong. I'm like, whoa. Like that's a weird discussion. He goes, yeah, and the priest, told me to say some prayers and everything's okay. And I remember thinking to myself, boy, when I do a bunch of bad things, we don't have that same discussion. Like, I'm just not allowed to do bad things. And I think core values have to be so core that they never change. The vivid vision is every 3 years. So I just launched about 6 months ago, I launched my 2022 vivid vision for the COO Alliance. So if you go back and you look at, the screen share, you'll see that it is the 2022 vivid vision. The old vivid vision was the 2020. So at the end of 2020, it was done, or 2019, sorry, it was done. Then we leaned out 3 more years to 2022.
Okay. Excellent. And I want to touch on that vivid vision real quick, right? How do you update it, right? We get forward 36 months from now and we've got our vivid vision. Do we pull out our old one and compare it? What's the process for updating that vivid vision?
Great question. You don't pull out your old one and edit it. You leave it behind for a second. You lean out into the future and you describe what your new company looks like, acts like, and feels like. And when you've got all those bullet points fleshed out with a mind map and rough points, and you've thought about it for a few hours, maybe you've done 2-3 hour sessions, then you go back and grab your old one and look at it, see if you're missing anything.
Excellent.
You're not trying to make a ball of elastic bands bigger. You're trying, here's the best example. And I've known Elon Musk. I was a reference for Elon in January of 1995 for his first company, Zip2, when they only had 1 employee, Kimball Musk and Elon Musk. I was a financial reference for them because they wanted to raise money and they had 1 employee. Elon has an ability to dream at a different level and articulate a vision so people get inspired. But he doesn't try to make something that exists better. Do you know why the Tesla Model S had the 5-seat option? Right? You could have 2 in the front, 3 in the back, and the 2 jump seat. Do you know why it had the 2 jump seat option? Because he had 5 kids. He didn't try to make the Prius faster. He wanted to make an electric car that was as fast as his McLaren F1. He wanted to make it super sleek and sexy. He wanted to sit his 5 kids, his twins and triplets, and his girlfriend, or wife probably at the time. And then he also wanted it to sit his body. He's an inch taller than me. He's 6'5". The Model S has tons of legroom, and the person sitting behind the driver has lots of legroom. He fucking designed the car for him. So the idea with the vivid vision is to lean out, then work it backwards with the plan, not to take what you have and make it bigger. Excellent.
So coming back to your success equation, and I love that, right? Focus, faith.
Oh. I have a hard stop at the top of the hour.
Yep.
We have a hard stop at 11.
Yep, this is the last one. So focus, faith, and effort. And Fernando asked, right, that was much higher before COVID. I'm in the wedding industry and I can't function. What do I do now?
Pivot, find other. So at the end of the day, we have 3 resources. We have people, we have time, and we have money. Those are the 3 inputs. For each of those 3 inputs, we have to get the highest output. So think about right now, how are you going to allocate your people to get the highest ROI? How are you going to allocate your time to get the highest ROI? How are you going to allocate your money to get the highest ROI? Maybe you get into real estate right now. Maybe you do some stuff around investing. Business at the end of the day is just what we do to make money and give us time and spin off something, right? So yeah, if your industry is getting obliterated, maybe you have to pivot in a way. I mean, and it sucks. And I'm open, like my sister's company went from $1 million a month in revenue to 0 with no ability to actually do anything online. She runs co-ed intramural sports leagues for people in their 20s and 30s. She can't say to everybody, okay, let's all play basketball from our living rooms over Zoom. We're all going to play volleyball, grass volleyball from so she literally had to find other revenue streams using the people, time, and money she had. And she had to cut overhead and expenses in a way to actually reduce her burn. Yeah. So yeah, we're in a different time, but in the global financial crisis, so of 2008, 2009, there were lots and lots of companies that did poorly. There were also lots and lots of companies that did well. The ones who did well were the ones who allocated the 3 inputs.
Yeah. Well, hey, Cameron, thank you for coming and sharing these ideas on leadership. I know most of us are walking away with how to be, even better leaders in our companies. And I was listening to you talk, what was going through my mind ago was about, 5 years ago, there's a couple that came into my office, their business was doing just great. But financially, they didn't have that vivid vision. They didn't have the right team of people. And we were able to align them and bring them together. And I really just kind of looked them in the eye and said, we got to get clear on where you want to go, just like you talked about in our companies. And I actually just saw them a couple months ago in one of our regular progress meetings. And they were so grateful that they had that path, that they had that vision. And they said, COVID-19, it's been bad, but it would have been a lot worse had we not had that vision. And that's the power of leadership. So go out there in Central California, right here in Bakersfield, or wherever you are, and go be that kind of leader that you're capable of being.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Cameron.
Thanks, everybody. Make sure that Tim shares the photos that he won this talk with you guys. Those have to be sent out to everybody as follow-up. Bye, guys.
You betcha.
Thanks, Cameron. Thanks, Tim. Good job.